Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today where we're going to cover removing the clutter for a simple user experience. I am Kate Wilcox. I am a CRO manager here at Hanapin Marketing, and I also write for our in-house blog, PPC Hero. You can catch me on Twitter at Kate Wilcox, KCCO, and you can catch me during the webinar or before and after. Just shoot me questions all times. Tej?
Yeah, hi guys. This is Tejaswi from VWO. I manage the demand generation channels at VWO, which is responsible for generating qualified leads for our business. You can tweet out questions during the webinar at my handle. Kate?
Wonderful. So who are we here at Hanapin Marketing? We run the world's most popular PPC blog, PPC Hero, which I previously mentioned. We also have a very popular PPC conference known as HeroConf. As a little side plug, in October, we will be in London for that conference for an international sweep. You can find out more about that at heroconf.com. We're also an industry-leading digital marketing agency that manages and optimizes our clients' paid search, paid social, and display. As a small fun fact for you all, our first and second clients are still with us today, 12 years later, and that's because we have a pretty fantastic business model, if I say so myself. Even better, kind of stepping it up a notch. Our clients see their accounts grow 250% faster after signing with us, and 93% of our partners keep working with us. So if you need a team of experts and a bunch of really fun people to work with, we have a building full of them. Just kind of a look at some of who our clients are. Moving to the next slide, we work with a lot of big brands and Fortune 500 companies and a variety of verticals and industries, which casts a really wide net onto our experience. But you can learn more about our clients and read some of what they had to say about us on our site, hanapinmarketing.com, on the clients page.
Awesome. Hey guys, so VW is a world's leading A/B testing and conversion optimization platform. We help you boost conversions by optimizing visitors' actions on your website. We are well supported in the platform by powerful features which are added on to the A/B testing, like behavioral targeting, heat maps, and click maps, which tells you what users are doing on your website, usability testing, personalization, and more. We are a leader across review sites like G2 Crowd, where we have hundreds of customer reviews who love the features. A quick look at our clientele. We have, next slide please. So we have more than 4,500 customers across the world, across industries like e-commerce, travel and hospitality, media and publishing, and SaaS. Next. Kate,
so as we've Thank you. As we've mentioned previously, you can tweet both of us at our handles. You can also make sure to include our hashtag ThinkPPC so that we can all be in the same webinar thread and be in the same arena, basically. And then you can also use the very well-trained form we have of plugging those questions into the webinar Q&A box. We will have specific time at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. So fire away so that we can clear out the big, bold questions from you guys. So time for our first live poll question, just so that we can kind of chat it out. So how long have you guys been in PPC? Me personally, I joined Hanapin about 2 years ago, and I started off 100% PPC, and then I made a lateral move to really go into CRO and dive deeply into there. So still have a superficial knowledge of PPC and keep up with the industry and all that's happening there, but my primary focus is CRO. Bottom line, about 2 years. What about you? Tej?
Yeah, so yeah, are we at the poll right now? I'm not.
Awesome. So it looks like the bulk of you guys are at less than 1 year, which is really exciting for me. It means that you guys are going to learn really cool things that'll build a solid foundation. But we also have a wide spread in the 1 to 3, 3 to 5. You guys are pretty balanced out. So we've got experts and novices alike. Welcome. So today we want to make sure that we cover a bunch of topics, a broad spectrum really, but we really want you to go home knowing how to personalize your user journey based on the context of the journey, so where they're coming and how they're approaching you. We also want you to be able to assist your users in gaining a head start where possible. And these are going to be both concrete and tactical approaches, so hopefully you'll be able to walk out of here and start tweaking things and adopting new tools along with new mindsets. So let's start with the context of the journey and kind of answering where our users are coming from. So obviously, if we're going to simplify that user experience, we need to know where our users are coming from, both through their path and also mentally. So speaking specifically to the path, we can dig through Google Analytics and tap into that top conversion paths report and see what our users are hitting and what's really converting for us. So we can also do this with attribution. But top conversion paths is really where I tend to go, purely to see which channels are working hardest. And the whole premise here is that we want to be able to steal from ourselves. So if paid search is working really well for us, which it is here in this example, and then email is also doing really well, both on a first touch and a double touch. So in the realm of paid search, we could be taking that copy or those points that we're pulling out, those benefits, etc., and pull them into our emails and kind of bump it up a notch. We can also do it vice versa. So since email is doing so well, whether it's one touch or double touch, we could take some of that messaging and put it into paid search as well. We can also think about it in terms of our users and not just language. So who are those people who are clicking through our emails? And not only that, who are the people who are clicking through and then also converting? Can we target those in our PPC schema? Can we make an audience out of them? Things of that nature. So when you're trying to simplify an overall journey for all of your users, make sure that you're looking at the whole spectrum and not just a single channel or a single medium. And with this, I would also highly recommend to segment by device, because not all users are the same, and we're all very aware of that. So desktop, mobile, they're going to be different. And until the day when we can actively see cross-device 100% accuracy, segment by device and make sure that you're talking to your users on that level as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think next. Yeah, I think Kate touched upon the basic customization or the journey you can understand of the visitors before they convert on your website. But I think personalization has come a long way from its early days. And let's look at some deep personalization you can do based on the context of the visitor. For example, the source of the traffic, which Kate already mentioned, it gives you the type of traffic you're getting, the direct, referral, social, mobile, desktop, the type of device they're using, are they returning visitors or new visitors, or like she mentioned, the PPC traffic or paid traffic. So basically, a source of traffic is a huge chunk in itself on which you can contextualize the journey for the visitor once that visitor comes on your website. But there are deeper custom parameters that you can use within the URL itself, which is the active behavior of the visitor. For example, if you have a query parameter or a UTM tag from a campaign or a source, you can contextualize the experience on the landing page depending on that UTM. Similarly, even if you go one level deeper, you can create experiences around the time of the day or the day of the week, which I'll give examples later on in this webinar. Next slide. So the last slide was all about real-time data, when the visitor is reacting and acting on your website, and this is historical data. So if you are running a business, if you have whatever time you're on in the business, you will have a lot of data around number of orders, the average order value. Of course, Google Analytics has powerful analytics, and there are deeper tools which give you even deeper analytics, like total amount spent by a customer or the number of products he or she has viewed before purchasing and things like that. So the historical data you have, you can leverage that in many ways. For example, you can personalize offers for loyal customers compared to others, or the customers that spend the most on your websites or specific products. So yeah, next.
Yep, so specifically talking about optimizing for PPC, in order to really optimize or simplify for our users, we have to isolate those high performers, right? So we have to be able to bucket them into a place where we understand where they are and where they're coming from, who they are really. So in PPC, we can look at click-through rate to figure out what ad copy is piquing interest. So what are we saying that is really driving users into the site through that ad? Stepping it up a notch, we can combine, look at both click-through rate and conversion rate. If we've got a high click-through rate and a high conversion rate, it means we're not only piquing interest, we're also driving action. So we're meeting users' expectations and we're giving them what they want or what they're seeking, which either way is fantastic. So if you want to isolate those ads, that messaging that's speaking to your users and really driving them through, combine click-through rate and conversion rate to isolate the copy that you should be replicating throughout your channels. Also in PPC, you can organize campaigns in the account by funnel. Just kind of a small strategy so that if you have a high funnel campaign and a mid funnel campaign, you can see really where your user's mindset is. So if that mid funnel campaign is outperforming your high funnel campaign, then most of your users who are coming through your PPC ads are more prepped to be sticking that foot in the door and really converting with you. So you can allocate budget where necessary and where it's going to really work for you. So in high funnel ads, you really obviously want to stick to the brand. So they're not very aware of who you are, what you do, what problems you're solving, or how you can help them. So you want to answer all of those questions in your short snippets in that ad. You want to be focusing on who you are and why you're the solution. So we can see in this ad here that we're just keeping it pretty broad. We're saying we have boots, but we're also saying that we have them for women, men, and children so that we can also qualify our users. Granted, not every single user is going to get that far in the ad, but make sure that you're casting the net and telling them, no, we want you, and here's what we have. In those mid-funnel ads, we're getting a little deeper, a little more persuasive, and a little less generic. So we're sticking to those benefits. I have bonus cookie crumb here. So we have a buy one, get one half off deal going with this ad that I've genericized for you guys. But you can kind of show the benefit of shipping. So free shipping on languages or orders over this much, or such like that, and just kind of nudge them. They already know what you're selling. They already know what you do. So just tell them why you're awesome or why they should be shopping with you specifically. So this one's not necessarily about your brand. It's more about the product. It's a little narrower.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, I think Kate touched upon the keyword there, the why of talking to your visitor. So outbound email marketing is something we do a lot of at VWO, and we bet a lot of money, manpower, and our energies into it. So if you want to land enterprise deals in your business, which are the decision makers are higher up the ladder, either senior managers or CXOs, then email is still one of the most proven channels. So outbound marketing is something we focus on. So personalization and contextualizing the experience is something which you can leverage there as well. For example, this is an email we sent to customers of our competitor, one of the leading competitors, which we're not comfortable naming here. But the context was that we had senior managers and marketing leads from enterprise companies who we wanted to pitch directly and personally. So what we did was we built a generic landing page. If you go to the next slide. So this is what we did, right? So we have a URL which is universal, and there is a public landing page. But we are using a UTM parameter and a query parameter on the top, which says the company name that we are targeting. So in this case, the company was a B2B software business. And here I have put Wingify, which is our business name, not to disclose the original client we reached out to. And then the logos, the trust builders were from the specific industries, more or less their competitors or their players in the same B2B company space. So the context of that, because I'm prospecting, I'm reaching out individually at scale, let's say 100 B2B businesses, I can use the same landing page and just change the company name on the top, and the logos remain the same. But as soon as I reach to another vertical, let's say e-commerce companies, I will have 4 logos from the e-commerce industry. So even in outbound campaigns, the link which is redirecting to the landing page can build the context that, okay, the click is from a specific UTM, which is unique to that campaign. And you can build the context on the landing page, which is very personal. and a direct pitch rather than a very generic landing page, which will of course have lesser conversion rates. Yeah, next.
So we'll jump into some examples from all of the shenanigans. Next slide, please. Awesome. So a short psychology lesson for you guys before we really jump into this, kind of going to explain the why simplifying our user experience matters, other than, woo, it'll raise our conversion rate. So at the baseline, it's all about cognitive load. So put most simply, cognitive load holds that our short-term memory is short, so it's very limited. It's about 6 to 7 elements, quote unquote, and that also we don't really learn unless our brain is talked to in the way it wants to be talked to. So next slide. Bringing it down to more of a marketing level and more of a root level for you guys, we don't really remember much, and if we want our marketing messages to be sticky and to survive, we need to keep it short and sweet. We need to keep it consistent, and we really have to talk to the brain and to the human in a way that the brain understands and wants to listen to. So we can't necessarily approach it from the left field. We really have to go into the cognitive processes. So at the very base of this, we know that action is a direct result of motivation. So the more motivated our users are, just overall about us, about anything, the more actions they'll take, or the more likely they are to take an action. And that also includes repeated actions. So our lower motivated users aren't necessarily going to act over and over and over again. And an action can be as simple as a click. So in order to really tap into those low motivation users and make sure that we're capturing as many users as possible to get them past that threshold and into the conversion arena, we need to make sure that we're reducing action as much as possible and making them work and think as little as possible.
Yeah, so I think numbers are always a good bet to back theories up. So let's look at some numbers which prove that personalization or building the context helps. So personalization has led to even average 20% increase in sales across industries. Personalized call to actions walk over generic ones. Even data like browsing history today on a specific website has been leveraged. And in our recent e-commerce consumer survey report, we have seen that consumers feel that context helps. Of course, initially, the browsing history, of course, is something which is a bit private for many. But if you are openly saying in the website that we are collecting cookies and we are observing you, the consumer has lesser friction. And if you are able to provide an experience which gives better products at cheaper price or contextual offers, then I don't think consumers complain that much. So yeah, 36% of online buyers in our survey mentioned that they are more likely to buy if we leverage the browsing history or the purchase pattern historically. Next.
So let's talk specifics, shall we? So in carousels, I know these are highly debated for multiple reasons. We see them typically in hero images where we're shifting through images or different sales or peaks of information or something like that. And that information caveat is really where you shoot yourself in the foot. So hiding any sort of pertinent information or even persuasive information behind any sort of click is very dangerous, and that it really abhors to the Wizziati principle, the what you see is all there is. So if that information is not open on the page and you're requiring a user to click to find it, you're automatically reducing the amount of users that will see that information. So on this right-hand side, I have an example from a higher education landing page. So when we user test this page, we see that a lot of the users read through every ounce of copy. That's very typical for user testing. But when they get to this slideshow, as you can see via the arrows, they get 3 or 4 slides in and they hit this copy where we learn that some of the faculty from this higher education institution are Nobel Prize winners, and they really stick to that and they call it out and they keep coming back to it over and over again throughout that entire 30 to 60-minute session. So this point is very important. It's very persuasive, but it's hidden behind a carousel. So bringing that out probably nudges a lot more users and also speaks to the validity of the school in itself. So in essence, don't hide information that your users need to convert. also don't hide information that could push them over the edge and persuade them to convert. For all of you e-com specific folks, we all know that we live and breathe and die by filters nowadays. If you have a wide or complex product array, this is even more true for you. But this specific example is a really cool tool that I think is absolutely brilliant in removing clicks, inaction, and thinking for users. So this is actually a tool that's on the home page of a compression socks site. And we all know that the home page's job is to get people off of the home page and down somewhere into a guided funnel, right? So this tool guides them into where we want. So instead of going into the top navigation or a search bar or something like that, they're going through this tool. And this tool in and of itself is combining 3 of the most utilized filters that we saw from the category pages. So in terms of compression socks, everyone's gunning straight for gender, the amount of compression, and then the style, so the rise, whether it's knee, high thigh, high, etc. So we combine them all so that in one fell swoop, you can give those 3 clicks, search products, and then boom, you land on a category page that is filtered for you in essence. It's a very personalized experience, and then you can add any more filters to your little hardest content. So just combining and removing those steps of having to go through the top navigation and find the most pertinent high-level page and then apply 6 different filters and wait for the page to reload. It's just a lot less cumbersome and a lot more of a personalized, this is about me experience for those e-com users. We can also fill in the blanks. So if you hold any information from logins or cookies or what have you in terms of names, email addresses, whatever, and then you ask a user to put that into a field anywhere, you should be providing that in the field for them, or at least trying to. So this just removes work for them, especially when they're repeat users. If they have that brand loyalty enough to come back from you, you want to tap into that reciprocity and give them something so that they will continue to keep giving you things. So giving them an easy, usable experience, easy for you on the development side. And this, I specifically use Amazon because Amazon, as we all know, is amazing and really good at the whole usability and make me want to buy things over and over again. So this specifically was my experience buying batteries because apparently I wasn't motivated enough to actually go to the store and do it myself. But I could do it in 2 whole clicks. I got to the battery page, I added it to my cart, and then I swiped and I placed an order. And because it's Amazon Prime, it was at my house in 2 days. Completely seamless experience, and probably exactly why I wasn't motivated to actually get up, get in my truck, and go to the store and buy my own batteries. So just making it easy for users can also make them a little more tolerant on perhaps the higher price of buying batteries and perhaps waiting 2 days instead of the immediate response. So if you have that information, if it makes it an easier experience by just telling them, hey, we know who you are and you only have to click twice to buy a thing, do it. Oh, gates. So gates are a big thing in the e-com world, but I've also seen them sometimes in like login platforms or free trial type of things. So if you have a gate holding your users from checkout and there is no guest option, I'm going to venture and say that it's probably a huge risk for you, and you're probably also driving a lot of users away. Why? Because they're trying to give you something, their money. They've made it all the way through the cart. They're moving into a checkout process. They probably have their card in hand and they're ready to go. And then you're saying, hey, along with your money, can you also just give me your email address right now? Because that would be really cool. And in essence, you're not giving them anything at that point. You're just asking, and they're kind of going to get a little turned off by it. So as you can see here in the data, that checkout line is the biggest drop in our manual funnel. So we have 83% of users that hit this gate, were in the cart, were staring at the products they wanted, and then hit a gate and decided, you know what, never mind. And so I understand from a marketing perspective, capturing this email address and being able to really target those cart abandoners, very valuable. But gating them from giving you money, probably not the best approach. We can stick those email address fields in the checkout itself and probably hit more success. But overall, just make sure that you're not asking too much of your users. If you want that big action, that conversion, that purchase, make sure that you're not also asking them to do a bunch of little things on the way, because then you're going to deplete their motivation to really perform that big action for you in the end. Tej?
Hello, sorry, I think, muted by mistake. Sorry. I hope you guys can hear me.
Oh yeah, you're good now.
Great. So yeah, let's sum up our learning a bit, shall we? This is a good conceptualization done by UX lady known as Silvana, who is a very well-known user experience designer in the industry. So it's a three-step roadmap for your personalization strategy. So first, you collect data, which is of course real-time and historical. Then you understand users deeply. That's all you do. You just focus on their contextual journeys, the most common pathways, like Kate mentioned in the first slide. You understand how they are behaving on your website, and then you try to predict, which is the tricky part. In the sense, you understand their emotions, their context, and their behavior, and try to see if your website design or the call to actions can predict the action that the user is going to take. Now, if you find the magic piece, which is the third piece, that is when you actually deliver a highly relevant, personalized experience. So we'll take some good examples going forward. Let me dive into specifics now. So yeah, next slide. So as Kate also mentioned, a lot of people appreciate, your buyers appreciate if you tell how you are leveraging the data rather than being hidden or creepy about their context. So 77% of shoppers in studies trust businesses who explain what they're doing with your information. For example, if you go to the next slide, you can build context on the go, right? So you don't have to rely on historical data that visitors have given you or the buying behavior. You can just ask simple questions before you design the experience going forward. For example, this watch company asks a simple question on the budget range for the customer, prospective customer. And once you select one of these three options, is it low budget, is it somewhere in the middle, or above 300, which is premium, then they will deliver the next complete website experience based on that choice. So you are not just collecting information, you are very transparent about it, and you're giving the control to the user's decision making. So let's take another example. Next. So here, this is a great example where a popular American bedding retailer, 1800 Mattresses, has cracked the contextual call to action. So on the left side is the desktop website, which is more or less, in my opinion, cluttered. There are many call to actions, there are offers lying around, and there are different pages and navigation which is cluttered. But on the mobile front, just look at the focus on the call to action, which is call the number. So because it's a mobile device, why have sign up or purchase directly? Why not make the users call you and you explain the product or help them in their buyer journey? So we have seen how the contextual behavior, if it is on a mobile, why not shorten the journey and just make the user call you guys? So this is a good example where the contextual call to action led to greater sales, higher sales for this brand. And that is how a different, like I think Kate mentioned in the beginning, you can differentiate the user experience for a desktop visitor, which is usually everything, show everything, let them choose what they want to do. But in a mobile optimized screen, let them focus on the main call to action, which is leading to maximum sales for you. So yeah, next. Now we will look at some examples where personalization at scale. In the past examples, we looked at some small actions which a user does, and you can deliver an experience, across the website based on that choices. But look at how Netflix does it, right? I mean, it asks you to create profiles or add profiles first. It starts observing your movie choices or the TV series that you watch. But in the next session onwards, so whenever you log in next, it always asks you who's watching. So why Netflix relies so much on the profiling and building the context is because they have understood how we behave as entertainment consumers. We have our own tastes, we have our own behavior of watching the TV series or movies that we like. So why not leverage that and just ask the user on what experience or the profile that he wants. So the profile is not just a random profile of having an email address and a name. The context of the watching behavior is hidden behind each profile, and they just double down on it every time you log in to Netflix. But we are not Netflix. That is important. We don't have maybe the resources or the tools to be like Netflix. So the next slide and the next example will be very simple to implement in my sense, and let's focus on that. So this is a concept project by one web designer, Amir Glatt, who is CEO at an agency called Duda. So what he proposed is that you have a sushi website, sushi hotel, which has a generic website, but they have reserve a table, which is the main call to action on the top fold. So once you know the location of the visitor, why not leverage that and show relevant offer or the event nearby? So mostly restaurants will have book a table or reserve a table according to they will let the user explore where they are from, find a location in the map, and then maybe book a table. But here they know the IP address or the IP city of the visitor. So why not leverage that and show banners which are relevant around that area? Similarly, they have in this, I'll just show how it is done in the backend and the code. But here they have daily offers or the daily special menu, which changes every day by the day of the week. So Friday there is one special, and then Saturday there is another. So it's a simple concept at a very small scale business, not necessarily Netflix, but it's pretty easy to implement, not at a code level. So yeah, the next slide. So this is what is happening in the backend, right? I don't know how many of you are developers. I am not one for sure. So this is a two-step according to developers who know a basic CSS and HTML. So you define weekdays in your code, and for each code, you call out HTML snippet, which is hidden and not visible to the user. So in the first case, if you look at it, it's Friday, and the CSS calls out from the workday, which is on the second step. So you can, of course, contact the developer here directly, but I will tell you a tech stack. Of course, VW helps you do that without any code and without, breaking your head, which I'll talk about later. So the next slide. So this is a good example if any of you have sign-up forms on your website. Clearbit is a good tool or a platform which has, email contextual information. For example, it scrapes the data from across social platforms. It has powerful APIs, which cleanses the data that you get. So in this simple sign-up form, which is from a website called mention.com, I don't know if you have used it before. So as soon as you enter the email address, it looks up the first name and last name and helps you reduce at least 3 to 4 seconds and the double data entry that is required from a visitor. So or the prospective sign-up. And how it is done in the backend is, if you go to the next slide. So here, the Clearbit has its own technology stack, which collects the Alexa rank of the website, the email address of the visitor, and gets you contextual information of the industry that person is from and the cities they have headquarters of the business in and things like that. And it will autofill for the visitor, and your sign up becomes faster. And the case study showed that the sign-up rate increased by 54% for this business just by implementing this, quick auto sign-up kind of a feature. So now I will look at the tech stack that businesses have started using to, personalize. Of course, self-plug here. VW is a leading personalization platform where you can create multiple versions for a specific campaign, and you can create powerful filters like day of the week or hour of the day and show relevant versions of the same landing page to the users coming from that context. Similarly, the first factors that I talked about, the visitor behavior before the click, the referring URL, landing page URL, things like that, all the filters are provided within VW, and you can leverage that without any coding. You just say, this is what I want, and these are the versions of the website or the landing page that you want to deliver for each segment that you identify. Evergage is a powerful leading. Evergage and Demandware are for e-commerce specifically. So is Kissmetrics. Kissmetrics delivers to SaaS as well, where it tracks your visitor behavior and the funnels that you have on your e-commerce website. And then it will, help you build contextual journeys within it for landing pages and, deliver the data basically. Clearbit, like I mentioned, is mostly used by SaaS businesses, but anywhere you have a sign-up form, you can deliver, auto-filled data, or you can enrich the data from a simple email address that Clearbit looks up into its servers. And so is Monitored, a leading personalization engine for e-commerce. And yeah, So this is the personalization technology stack you can look at. Of course, if you are interested in VW, get back in touch with me or my team. The next slide. So this is where it can get creepy, right? So this was a university which I'll not name, who wanted to increase the signups for their scholarship program. And I think they delivered this experience where the street address of the student was auto-filled. Now, it's, of course, a matter of choice and how creepy you feel it is. But I felt when personalization can go too far when you make it too broad, and or you make it very specific to very personal data that a user may or may not be comfortable sharing. So like some examples showed before, it's always good to be transparent with the user that of course you're tracking their history and you're tracking their behavior, but even then don't use to a point where it can get creepy like this. So personalization is always a balancing act. You need to see which type of contextual experience actually leverages the information for a good conversion rate, but don't go too far just for your selfish goals and give up on maybe the ethical side or the respecting the privacy of the user. So yeah, and Kate, anything to add there?
Yeah, no, other than the fact that we just kind of have to keep ourselves in check. For the most part, I think as digital marketers or really anyone in the digital sphere, we understand the amount of information that we can access about our users. We see that as normal, usual, acceptable. I personally love being advertised to now on Facebook and Google, etc., just to see what Google thinks I want and need and stuff like that. But I think we have to understand that the majority of the users that we're trying to speak to aren't familiar with how much information we have about them. That isn't as clear of a line for them. So if we show them too much about themselves, they get really creeped out. So it is really that balancing act, that fine line, and we have to understand that what we may be comfortable seeing and what we may think is acceptable to show our users may really, really scare them off.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we've reached the end, guys, and before we jump into that Q&A session, feel free to ask us any of our questions, generally about CRO, our experiences, our lives, our hobbies, but also what we talked about. But before we get there, quick offers from both of us. You can opt into a 30-day free trial from VWO, or you can opt into an account analysis from the folks here at Hanapin, which is free. It's custom. We recommend it for the account spending about $15,000 per month or so. But someone will look at your account, one of our experts, and they compare the structure, the results, and basically the metrics, the organization, and what we're seeing to our industry standards, which are a wide array of industry standards and verticals. This is also really beneficial for in-house teams specifically, just to double check, get a fresh pair of eyes on what you're doing, primarily because it's free, guys, and we're a squad of experts. So you can opt into one, either, both, none. Doesn't really matter. Let me know. All right, so jumping into Q&A, our first and primary question came from an overachiever, so kudos to you. This question was logged in before we even jumped in. So basically, we've got a lot of locations, a lot of different brands, hundreds of models of cars. So we wanted to know an easy way to create hundreds of ads, keep it creative, keep it pertinent, keep it relevant. So my personal advice for you is templates, 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 templates. So I know on PPC Hero, we've got to have at least one of our Excel templates that we use to build ads. So if you can't personally find that, dear question asker, please reach out to me on Twitter or my personal email, kate.wilcox@hanapinmarketing, and I will send it to you. But we template out ads so that most of the copy is rigid, and we'll build different type of ads that are concrete or emotional or like type 1, type 2, type 3, what have you. And then we just leave room for fill in the blanks. And that's where your specific car models would come into part, or your specifics on location or any of that. So you can plug and chug basically, and it'll spit out a bunch of ads for you in a way that is easily uploadable to AdWords. So it cuts down a ton of time, a ton of headaches, and allows you to be a lot more creative. The only caveat that I will have to that is that you have to keep it pretty broad in order to template out hundreds of ads. So you can't necessarily get as specific as you may want to or as persuasive as you may want to, but it will still take a bulk load of time and work off of your plate. So I would definitely recommend that. Tej, did you have anything to add about ways to keep it creative with hundreds of ads?
Yeah, I think PPC Hero, of course, is a great resource. So I think I found something some time back called Bulk Create Ads. It's a script by Frederick, if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure if it still works, but I found an interesting script where it will create auto, multiple ads in bulk if required, I think by a variable. So I'm not sure how relevant it is. I think it was from last year, from the code itself. So maybe you guys can leverage that.
Awesome. Yeah. So second question, kind of broad, and I'm going to shove this over to you, Tej, because I think you have a little more experience in this realm. So I think personalization is a really big buzzword in the industry right now, and it's really also broad. So personalization can refer to a million different things, but what do you find most effective in terms of personalization? Is it pop-ups, geolocation, what have you?
Yeah, good question. So it's always about testing and seeing what fits your business case. For example, in our case, the personalization in terms of the landing page where the content is personalized has worked well, rather than showing a pop-up which is personalized or a different experience. But it always comes down to if you're getting good amount of traffic, you can always experiment on the experiences and see which stick. But more importantly, before personalization comes on how users act on your website. So it cannot be stressed enough that before making any hypothesis about an experiment or trying out a new personalized experience, it's always good to see the heat maps, the click maps, the Google Analytics data to understand how actually your users act and build an experience which fits that, rather than going by a playbook or an industry best practice or a study which says, pop-ups work or a landing page context helps. Works. So always look at your own data first, because you know your business best and the analytics tools are built for it. And then if the designer or the marketer and developer sit together in one room and identify some hypothetical experiences, then that is the way I would suggest, rather than a playbook from industry which may not relate to your business case.
For sure, and I'll definitely compliment that. I am a huge proponent of not just running with best practices and making sure that you're catering whatever you're doing to your users, your website, and your data. And along with that, in my personalization sphere, I found that anything geographically based tends to really boost it up a notch. So I think even though we're in a completely digital sphere, people still want to know that what they want is close to home, and that the people that they're going to be going into business with or any transaction with are close and kind of understand them as a human. And for some reason, geography definitely taps into that. And with PPC, it's so easy. And it's just really easy to kind of tap into users and say, hey, geographically, I understand you.
Yeah.
Moving on. Question number 2 or 3. I think we're on 3 now. We have a new startup site about to launch, e-commerce, one product in various flavors. What do you consider essential in the first 90 days as far as data? So by data, I'm going to assume that you mean metrics. So first 90 days, I would be looking hardcore at bounce rate. I would also be looking at pages per session. I want to see high pages per session and make sure that they're kind of floating around. I get that it's a single product with various flavors, but I want them to be exploring you as a brand along with all those different flavors. And the bounce rate is really just going to speak to whether or not they're even going through those pages and making sure that they actually like your site and what you're showing them and what you're doing. Tej, anything there?
Yeah, just to complement that, it's always good to see what happens before the visit. For example, if you have landing pages or product pages for, let's say, different flavors, it's always good to see how much traffic is actually relevant or qualified visitors. So are they coming from categories page before the products page? Are they coming from Google search, which is of course the highest, most potential revenue channel for you, because the intent is very clear that somebody wants that flavor. So yeah, another thing I can look at, we should look at it, is the context of the visitor on the behavior before landing on that product page or that specific flavor. So maybe if you can compare organic traffic or the last page visited before the flavor, maybe that's a good comparative data to compare flavors and see which one is working or which one is not.
And then we have a follow-up from that. Tej, I'm going to send this to you.
Yep.
So they wanted to mention that they're on WordPress for the site and blog and Shopify, but which APIs from the list of plugins?
Say that again. I couldn't get the question. Maybe I can get back to it.
How about which APIs from the list of plugins? So I'm assuming we're going with WordPress plugins. So which one should be important to an e-com startup site?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So maybe if I can get the name or the email address of the user, I can compile that list and send it to him or her, because there are many plugins, and the personalization plugins or the optimization plugins is something I can definitely build as a kit if that helps. But I don't have any recollection of specific plugins on top of my head right now for an e-commerce business.
Good. So we have two that kind of follow up to each other. So we'll start out a little superficially and then dive a little deeper. What are the factors to be kept in mind while choosing a CRO platform? Is it just the A/B testing capability? I feel very strongly about this one, so I'm going to try not to rant you out here. But it is not just the A/B testing capability. So I'm going to toot VWO's horn here. We do use them as our testing platform, primarily because we can do all sorts of testing, not just A/B. We can go and split path multivariate, but we also have analysis on our tests. So I absolutely love the fact that I can heat map the control and the variation, so I can directly see the difference in behavior and not just the performance difference. I also like that VWO as a platform has separate analysis tools. So instead of complementing my CRO platform with a tool like Hotjar to do form analysis and heat maps and all of that, I can do it under one umbrella with VWO, and they do a really good job of it. I really love their form analysis specifically, and they're kind of branching into more and more analysis and more of an umbrella company. So when you're looking for a CRO platform, I would say try and keep it all encompassing, but make sure that you can still get into the nitty-gritty of what you need to do. If you need to target URLs very, very specifically, that needs to be a key point of your A/B testing platform, and you need to be able to do that. If you need to segment your data reports within the platform by that nitty-gritty URL or a segment or a device or something like that, make sure you can do that as well. But try and keep it as detailed as you need, but as broad enough to make sure that you can cover the whole spectrum of what you're going to need, if that makes sense.
Yep. I think I'll not talk a lot about VWO because Kate has done a better job at it. So thanks a lot, Kate, there. I hate selling as a marketer. But yeah, maybe I'll just focus on one aspect of whenever you decide a platform which improves your conversion rate or you want to study what users are doing, one important thing you need to do is look at which platforms actually capture the whole context of the visitor and not make it multiple tools. For example, Kate mentioned that Hotjar is a great tool to track visitor recording or what visitors are doing, but you lose the context as soon as the visitor becomes part of another funnel, or the visitor is doing a form action or a form submission. So a platform like, of course, VWO, which encompasses the journey of the visitor and doesn't lose the context of a unique visitor, is what you should look for, because the context, the behavior, and the actions of that visitor will vary in each stage. For a funnel, it would be like entering a page, and then it would be scrolling down or clicking, and then submitting a form, abandoning the cart. So wherever a platform which offers you the whole context of that visitor or the number of visitors that you get, that would be a good platform to bet on, because you don't lose data in middle or at the end, and you get the whole story end to end. So yeah, that's what I would focus on when trying to choose a good CRO platform.
And then second vein of kind of the same question, can you elaborate on how A/B testing can be used to deliver more personalized user experiences? And I feel like that's a very broad question, so I will let you handle that one first.
Yeah, same here. I'm not sure how much deep or broad I can get into this topic, but A/B testing broadly, I'll just tell how it can help personalization or how we can deliver you more results or more insights, is all about the versions of a control landing page. So for example, if you have one landing page for a generic visitor, if you create 10 variations, what A/B testing lets you do is understand the conversion, the journey, and the behavior in each of those versions, and then you see which one performs the best and which personalized user experience can you scale to, let's say, 1,000,000 visitors. So A/B testing in this context, user experience context, is all about giving them enough options, and the traffic will be, of course, split equally or however you want based on the attribution or the settings that you do in platforms. But once you see the results, of course, you wait for a statistical significant data. But the most personalized user experience would be the one where, of course, the bounce rate is lower, the engagement time is higher, and of course, the key metric is conversion. So whichever versions you see performing better will, help you shortlist the final golden egg that will drive conversions at scale. So that's where you can elaborate A/B testing beyond the generic A and B version and create enough versions to see which user experience can actually help you sell more and at scale. So maybe, yeah, without getting into specifics, which I'm not able to do with that question, I hope this gives you a broad idea of what you can do with A/B testing for personalization.
For sure, and I think a lot of it has to come up with knowing what your users want and where they're coming from. So it's not necessarily a different style or a different element that you're testing with A/B testing that means you're testing a personalized user experience. It's more tapping into what your users want and making sure that you're testing what they want or trying to test a solution that gives them what they want a little more quickly. So in terms of some examples of how we use A/B testing to personalize user experiences, we've thrown in definitely dynamic keyword insertion into landing pages to make sure that we're saying, hey, we fix garages in Phoenix, or something like that. We also tend to change copy to speak to a different demographic. So where we were on an essential oils site, and we kind of stereotyped our users, which was a bad idea, I'm sorry. So we thought we were speaking to the suburban mom bloggers, and in reality, after a bunch of user research, we learned that we were actually speaking to a younger generation. So we tested a lot of copy that was a little more casual and a little less up there and fluffy, and that brought down our copy down to our users' level, and it brought our conversion rate right up with it. So it's definitely something that you kind of need to learn what your users want and then test a solution that provides them what they want, really more so than kind of just throwing in a pop-up or something like that.
Yep.
Wonderful. So I'm not seeing any more questions from our lively crowd today. That does not mean that you cannot keep tweeting us. That does not mean that you can't keep emailing us. And that does not mean that we're not including all of you wonderful people who are watching the recording. So continue to send us questions. I will answer them all day. Thank you for attending. And here is our specific contact for both Hanapin and VWO. If you're specifically interested in me, Kate, you can also email me at kate.wilcox@hanapinmarketing, and tweet us, please. It gives me an excuse to do active things on Twitter all day long. So once again, thanks for attending. Tej, thank you for being in this webinar with me today. And to all of our attendees, I hope you have wonderful days.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks a lot.